What about second breakfast?
Time for second breakfast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another delicious episode of Second Breakfast. This one is another special event, special occasion for multiple reasons. Number one, we have the always lovely Danger.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it. Because I'm sick of your joke.
You can be sick of my joke all you want to, but it's still here. And the people that have heard the joke before know the joke is here. So I'm going to get it to them. Hi, Danger.
No. You cannot say a joke to a setup I did not provide. That is against the rules.
For those of you that are wondering what the joke is, because Monster has whet your appetite, he would normally say...
Do not explain it.
Sorry, did you hear that?
Yeah, I did, but I'm sorry if you're listening at home. The other reason this is sort of a special occasion is because this is a second breakfast specifically requested by our buddy Sean from the Confused Breakfast podcast. If you are keeping up to date with episodes, you will have just heard our episode with Sean on Queens of the Stone Age's album Era Vulgaris. And this was something, as we were discussing that, this particular album came up and he said he was interested to hear what we would think about it. And that album is Alive in the Catacombs, released June 13th, 2025. It is a live EP thing that Queens of the Stone Age released. And, it's very, very interesting, and I could see why he would be interested to hear what we had to say. I thought it was, I had quite the experience with this. What was your initial reaction when you looked this up or listened to it for the first time?
Okay, so I was a little curious about this. I want to go back before talking about that. So I was a little curious about this, where we've done soundtracks before to movies, namely the Pulp Fiction soundtrack comes to mind because it had a different release date than the movie did. I think it came out before the movie. And this was kind of a weird one for me within all this because it was recorded July 8th, 2024, but the film was released June 5th, 2025, but then the EP came out June 13th.
Oh, okay.
And so it was just kind of a weird thing. Like, yes, it was recorded in July 8th, 2024. So well in advance, almost a year before it was released. But,
yeah,
there are reasons for that, which I'll talk about if you want to hear those things. If you don't, that's fine. It doesn't hurt my feelings. But so, okay. I had a feeling that with it being filmed in the Catacombs, because Sean did let us know that it was recorded in the Catacombs of Paris. And I thought that was kind of a cool thing. But
which, if anybody doesn't know what the Catacombs in Paris is, I'll be honest, I'm not even exactly sure like why it's there or the history behind it. But it's basically like just miles and miles of tombs and dead bodies under the streets of Paris. Essentially, am I right? Is it more or less? I think there's actually the most I know about it is from a found footage horror movie that came out in the early mid 2000s called As Above, So Below or something like that. And if I'm not mistaken, they filmed the movie inside the catacombs. It should have been better than it was because of such an amazing setting. But it is a very creepy place. One of the scariest places in the whole world.
It is. And there's human skulls and bones laying around. And from what I understand, and this is without doing a whole lot of research on the catacombs themselves, it was basically a graveyard underground in order to save space in the city. And
gotcha.
I don't know, it was something along those lines. And I'm pretty sure that if somebody listens to this and knows more about the catacombs, we will be rudely corrected. And that's fine. Rudely correct us all you want to.
Rudely and correctly corrected. I would love a brief history lesson. We're not here to discuss the catacombs. We're here to discuss the Queens of the Stone Age doing an album in the catacombs. So forgive us, dear listener.
Okay, but Monster said rudely correctly correct us, and I'm going to give extra points for if you rudely incorrectly correct us. provide facts that make no sense.
Well, first of all,
do not line up with the timeline of the
the
catacombs.
catacombs of Paris are located in New Jersey.
It's Paris, Iowa.
Why does the New Jersey guy have a Southern accent?
I don't know. Anyway, all right. So my thoughts on this. Okay, so leading up to it, I had a feeling that with it being in the catacombs, it was going to not be, a full electric band. Now,
Sure.
My experience with Queens of the Stone Age is rather limited. But when we
Same.
did the album with Sean, I had a bit more exposure to him. I'd listened to the album Era Vulgaris before, but never as much as I did for preparation for that episode, and it was cool. I did enjoy it. Which there's a couple tracks on this EP, which I was surprised that they would pull what they did from what I feel like was probably their least popular album. I could be completely off base on that. I feel like there are songs that I almost expected certain ones to be played on this one, and they weren't there.
Yeah, and and again, I also did just a little bit of research, not a lot. It would appear that I saw that they like every song was specifically chosen for the atmosphere they would be in, and all of the instrumentation decisions and stuff were based on where they would be.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like all of these songs lent themselves well to an MTV Unplugged. But to be honest with you, so MTV Unplugged is still around, but it's not nearly what it was at one point.
Right.
But I kind of feel like where you got bands that want to do Unplugged, they kind of have to just make their own Unplugged. And this was Josh homie. I don't know. We had that discussion on
Not
the
this shit again. No,
Yeah.
Stop right there.
This was his Unplugged. Fine.
Yeah, and I guess, look, I don't want to bury the lead here, but I did not like this very much. I wanted to like it. I really did. Okay, Sean and I will probably have a different opinion on this, but to me, this seems
he did
like
say he would listen to this, so he probably will have.
Oh, I'm sure he will. And I said this on the show. Like, Queens of the Stone Age is not a band that I'm super familiar with. I don't love them or hate them. I'm kind of in the middle. Josh Homme does not strike me as the kind of guy that has the gravitas to pull this off, if that makes sense. Like, when I watched here's another thing. I got a very different vibe from watching this than I did from listening to it. And I would highly recommend, if you check this out and you're curious, watch the video more so than listen to the music. I think that gives you the exact feeling, whereas the music only gives you part of it. But the way he is like, what's the word I'm looking for? The way he is displaying himself.
How he's walking around and doing weird hands the whole time?
Yeah, like I don't know, like I don't have that kind of connection with him. So for me, it came across as very inauthentic and performative. Whereas like had that been like David Bowie or even like a Trent Reznor or somebody with a little bit more clout, but again, that might just be to me, like to Sean or to to Sean and to bigger Queens fans, then maybe this totally checks out. This is him, this is how it would go. But I was getting like David Bowie in Labyrinth style, like marching around with the hand gestures. There's one or two times where he gets a little handsy with some of his like bandmates and stuff, and it's like I again say you should watch it versus just listen to it so you can see the surroundings. But I don't know, like watching him sort of turn me off of it at certain points.
Okay, so I would 100% agree with you that I do think that it should be watched more than just listened to. It is a cool thing to see. I do think that the idea of recording songs, recording music in the catacombs was something that was kind of a cooler thing in his head than it was like the idea was cooler than the execution. Now, I will say that this was an idea that he had for 20 years. I was reading an article, and they asked a few times and were rejected. To which Josh said, "I never thought it would happen, but there's no reason to stop trying." And he actually ended up getting help from I just saw Insider Paris official. I don't really know what all that means, if that is a government employee or what, but anyway. So
it was Dave Grohl putting on a French accent to use his sway.
Yeah, which actually, so I kind of thought about something within this related to Dave Grohl. So okay, the EP was filmed days later after he announced that some of the tour dates for the End of Nero World Tour was canceled due to health issues. Now, my first thought when I saw that was, damn it, Dave Grohl did an entire tour with a broken leg. He just built a big throne and sat in it. You know, what kind of health issues could get in the way? Well, then I dug a little bit deeper into it. And he was diagnosed with cancer in 2022 and needed immediate attention, medical attention in the U.S. So it was like, okay, I feel like cancer is worse than broken legs. So that's excusable, Josh. That's fine. So okay.
In the tournament style bracket of illness,
yeah,
we're
right.
gonna go with cancer, Pete's broken leg.
Right. I feel like you have to put like cancer and AIDS on separate sides of the bracket, so they end up battling in the end, because you know that
you can't have two number ones in the same bracket.
No. What would the final four be? Like, okay, we're not talking. No,
let's not.
All right. I want to go back to, I think the idea of recording in the Catacombs was cooler than it actually was. Now, I do like the what's the word I'm looking for? I've completely lost it now. I do like the way that they rework the songs for the acoustic structure than the arrangement. I like the arrangement they did as opposed to the electric arrangement, which, the Catacombs have no electricity, so they could only do so much down there. And I think one of the issues about I think one of the issues with recording music down there is there's no acoustics, there's no decay, so everything is very flat. I think there's certain points where the bass sounds really, really good on this. I think the strings sound fantastic all throughout, but strings are one of those instruments where you don't have to have crazy acoustics. I think Josh's voice sounds really good in places, but I don't think he is a vocalist to sing like this. I just don't.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Like, his whole personification during this feels, but again, my experience with them is very limited. I'm used to the handful of music videos I've seen where he's holding his electric guitar and he's rocking real hard. And so watching him with, doing the snake arms and, like, I don't know, it's very performative and theater kid. And I don't get that vibe from him at all. So it was sort of, I understand you can't headbang to the way they're performing these songs, but I also I don't know, like, when I heard, okay, so I listened to it once the whole way through before I ever watched it. And when I listened to it, I literally was picturing a group of musicians sitting inside a very small, like, I know what the Catacombs look like in different areas. So I had a picture of that in my head. But then when I watch it, it was like, I don't know, it was almost like watching like a sketch on a TV show or something, because there's all these camera cuts and different angles and he's walking through it. And I get all that. Like, it is cool to look at, but I don't know, like, the visual, like, added and detracted all at the same time for me.
Well, you see, I feel like it kind of added the whole thing to me. Like, it almost created okay, so I made the mistake of watching it first. And this was something that I kind of had an issue in it, where I do want to hear this with, like, on vinyl, because I do think it would probably sound better on vinyl. But the reason why I say that is because I watched it on YouTube, because it got put up on YouTube back in 2025, December 2025, for full performance of it. People could buy it June 5th, the same day it was released, and cool. But I don't know if you've ever paid attention to any of this stuff, but YouTube compresses the hell out of music. And I've often wondered what happens to our episodes when they go up on YouTube, because we got music clips all throughout them, and it probably compresses the hell out of those. So,
and if you have a complaint about how it sounds on YouTube, that's YouTube's fault. It has nothing to do with our performances and our takes on albums. It is all YouTube's fault.
If you only listen to us on YouTube, go listen to us on Spotify, because on Spotify I've been described as sultry.
That's not true.
That's not true at all. But anyway, so I actually put on like my heavies, the best headphones in the world, and I'm going to stand by that statement. It's a fact. Sure. So yeah, I was not impressed. I think it was, this isn't something that's going to change the music landscape or set the world on fire. I think it's cooler for Queens fans than it is for
sure
casual fans of anything else. So all right, we do have different people that were on this than were on the album that we did. Do you want me to run through those?
Sure. There was at least like 7 or 8 different people down there.
Yeah. So on strings, you got Christiel Kiki, Bella Bosrick, Cecil.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah. No, those are very French names. But okay. So the band itself, Josh Homme was on lead vocals. And then Troy Van Leeuwen, and I think there's only 2 people that were on the album that we did. Yeah. And he's on acoustic guitar and synth, which I was a little surprised that they decided to pull out the synth from the Catacombs. But actually, I think that was... we'll get there. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Dean Fertetta was on synth, and Glockenspiel, which...
love a good Glockenspiel.
Yeah. People mix up a Glockenspiel and a xylophone all the time, but a Glockenspiel is a Glockenspiel. Actually, I think that somebody should make a documentary about the making of the Glockenspiel. Call it the Glock.
I think we've already said the word Glockenspiel more in this episode than it has been said in the past 40 years.
Probably Glockenspiel. All right, then Michael. Yeah, then Michael Schumann was not on Glockenspiel. He was on the acoustic bass and backing vocals, of course. But then Justin Theodore was on percussion. Now, did you pick up on the percussion in the music?
Yes, I actually made a note of it because I didn't notice it so much when I was listening to it, but they make sure to show it in the video. He's basically throwing a big chain from one hand to the other, and it makes a cool little like sound. I think he does some other little things, maybe. The chain is the main one I noticed.
The 2 things I have is the chain and sandpaper covered blocks.
Oh, yes. Okay. I remember that too.
You see the blocks in the very beginning when he first starts making noise, which I gotta say that like opening on Josh laying on the crypt, like it's like, okay, like the way he was laying, I was like, okay, I see what you're gonna do. You're gonna do your weird hands around, and that's fine.
If this was like, if the lead singer of Queens of the Stone Age was Bela Lugosi, this would make way more sense to me.
Okay, so what I felt like he was doing as he was walking around, God, and the name escapes me now, and I didn't take down the note. Who's the lead singer, or was the lead singer of Stone Temple Pilots? Scott Weiland.
Scott Weiland, yeah, I can see that.
I feel like Josh was doing his best walking Scott Weiland impression, and cool. It was somewhere between, I don't want to say it was so much of, oh, damn it, the other guy's name was Joe Cocker. I think I remember it as soon. So I don't think he was close to Joe Cocker, but I feel like he was closer to Scott Weiland than Joe Cocker. But he was like just kind of walking with. I don't know. Maybe I just wanted to make a Joe Cocker reference.
I love our points of reference. I went with Bela Lugosi and you went with Joe Cocker, but yeah. Either way,
which actually, when Joe Cocker was on SNL, he was followed around by Jim Belushi or John Belushi all day, and John Belushi was trying to get his mannerisms down. And then if you ever watch him on stage, like John Belushi is right next to him on stage because he went out that day and bought a white suit and a T-shirt as close as you could find to his. And Joe Cocker said he was okay for him to be on stage, and he didn't acknowledge him the entire time, and it was great. So anyway. All right, so I just have a couple notes on each song.
Same, yeah.
Okay, let's run through them. All right, so track 1, Running Joke / Paper Machete.
Your sculpture chains you higher than you erase. You think you're brave, all the plans you...
And Running Joke is from Era Vulgaris, the album that we did that came out in 2007, and then Paper Machete from In Times New Roman that came out in 2023. So a little bit older and newer for them.
But if I'm not mistaken, Running Joke wasn't actually on like the official release. It was a like a B-side or an extra track. And I think that's kind of what kind of sparred this conversation to begin with, because Sean mentioned that he preferred this version of that song, the Catacomb version of this song versus the original. And I didn't listen to the original. If I'm remembering correctly, if it was on the album, I definitely listened to it, but I think it was a bonus track that I didn't really pay any attention to.
So I'm just running back through my notes from the episode. I'm not seeing it on there. I do have Running Joke was a bonus track, but I think maybe it was, I think it came up earlier in our conversation because it was on the vinyl, but not on the release that we had, or the release.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I think you're right, because I think, I think you're right. I think he said that was on his vinyl, but not on the official release that is on Spotify. But okay, so here's what I'll say. Sweeping generalization about every one of these songs. If you just listen to one, it's really cool. And it definitely feels otherworldly and it has a vibe. But after 10, 15 minutes of it, I'm kind of done. Like any of these, like there is one song in particular that stands out to me, and we'll get there and I'll explain why. But generally speaking, every one of these is cool, but ultimately they sort of all sound the same to me.
More or less, yeah. So I don't know. I kind of feel the same way about it. Is like, I feel like the way the song starts is what we get through the entire thing. And, you know, that's more or less true for all of them here. And I quickly gathered that this was going to be a lot cooler for fans of Queen of the Stone Age.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That's fine if they made something for their fans and for their fans to like. Cool. But I don't know. I guess I had trouble not having the visual in my head listening to this, because I've listened to just this probably more than I know I only watched it once, but I did watch one of these a couple times. I went and found the video for it, but no, I don't know. It's fine. It's fine background music.
Okay, so here's what I realized again, except for one song in particular. This feels like it could be like that middle section of a Quentin Tarantino film that like leads you into the last act or something. Like it all feels very what's the word? Cinematic. Like it feels like these are like made for a movie. Like if you were watching a 2.5 hour long movie that had this like 4 or 5 minute like cool down music break, like this fits in perfectly. But to just listen to for the enjoyment of, it's just not for me.
Yeah, and I think that actually kind of goes to the Pulp Fiction soundtrack that we talked about, that, you know, most of the songs in that album we were cool with, like we really enjoyed them, but we didn't want to listen to them all, especially like all the surf rock songs, and that's fine. But, you know, on their own, one at a time, they're fine, just like most everything here. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like this one pretty much set the stage for this EP, that this is going to be a somber acoustic venture, which I feel like should have been assumed going into something called Catacombs.
And I guess I did feel that, but I also was expecting a little bit more sleazy rock and roll, just to a like, I understand where they're at, but it's still Queens of the Stone Age, so I still expected like a little bit of that, and there really isn't.
No, there's not. I wouldn't say this is sleaze at all.
No.
No. All right, so let's talk about track 2, Colopsia.
Truth is just a piece of clay. You sculpture, change to hide, then you erase.
It's off their album, their 2013 album, Like Clockwork. Now, I will go ahead and say that outside of, Era Vulgaris, I had not really heard of or listened to these albums beforehand. So I did go and I listened to a little bit of the songs, and I can say that this one, I definitely like more electric than acoustic. I like the album version a lot more. This one, I think the part about this one that got me is really about, 45 seconds, minute into it. It's almost like they're playing bigger than the space they're in. And I understand you play what you play and you play it how you play it, but I don't know. It was almost like listening to it. I just didn't like it. It was almost like it was peaking. It was hot mics and I wasn't like it. And that made me feel like they, okay. In the video of this whole thing, I didn't see microphones. And so it wasn't like they were walking around with, or they had microphones on them. It really felt like each section of people, because you didn't have like the strings down a little hallway. It's like they had their own microphone. The band had their own microphone. Those two things were mixed separately, but I kind of feel like the band was mixed like a brick.
Without seeing like a documentary on how they made it,
which there is one of those. So.
Okay, I would be curious to go back and watch that, because as a musician, everything you just said, like how you can't just walk around singing and the microphone pick you up. Like I have to assume that these were recorded more in the way I had in my head, where they're like sitting in a room recording, and then they basically shot performance style music videos for every song where Josh is walking around and, but I could be wrong. It could be like a mix of those things. It could be like, these are the actual string players performing this part, and we filmed it because they were stationed in this hallway while we recorded them. Like, I have no idea. I'd be curious to watch that documentary, because I will say the first song didn't really have the strings introduced yet. No, they came in on this song.
It did have strings in it, but they weren't as prevalent as elsewhere.
Oh yeah. Whereas this one, I actually really like at sort of like the very last chunk of the song, where the strings get real like I like that they get a little bit busier there, just to kind of pardon the pun, but to liven things up a little.
Okay, I'm not gonna let you liven things up a little in the Catacombs go. Just not gonna do it. No.
You know what livens up anything?
What?
A glockenspiel.
Oh, that's true. So, okay, there is a documentary that was about this, but I don't know. I liked the end, and I found that the one time that I tried it, I did like this one after I kind of skipped past that where it got real big moment, and I do like the part of the strings you're talking about, but overall, I feel like this is probably the weakest point of this 5-track EP.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about track 3, Villains of Circumstance.
Only for you, to the beat of my footsteps in the night.
And this is off their 2017 album, Villains. So this song makes sense for this. I feel like this is probably the one song, this and the next one, I feel like they make the most sense here, especially since they left the dripping sounds like towards the beginning and the end of this one. And I feel like those drippings, the dripping sounds were in place of crowd clapping and cheering for a live recording.
And that's what I'll say is I do like those moments, sort of like when we talk about like personality moments on albums. That is sort of the personality of this album, is the water dripping, the sort of empty sounds,
the atmosphere.
Yeah, like, and again, that's why I think watching it is so much more I don't know, it just works better when you visually see that represented, because the water dripping, yes, you hear that, but sort of just the empty claustrophobic feeling, you get far more from seeing it than you do from just listening.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Now, I do wonder what it would be like for somebody who didn't know what the catacombs were and didn't really know that there would be something like dripping in the catacombs.
Mhm.
And then they were listening to this going, what? Why is the dripping sound there? This is supposed to be a recorded live of like a live album. Why is this there? I don't like this. And then that becoming the reason why they stopped watching it. But anyway, or listening to it. No, I don't know. I felt like this was a bit more of, I don't want to say a melodic song, but I kind of feel like, whereas the ones before this, track 1 kind of set the tone, set the tone, track 2,
Tome,
the
Tomb,
yeah, the tomb, yeah, the tomb, yeah. Track 2 was them just being them, but then track 3, I feel like, was them really embracing the space and embracing the melody of the songs they have and what they could be on acoustic instruments.
Yeah, and maybe it's just because of, the album we did with Sean, but for me, all of this is just sort of fine. The next song,
track 4, Suture Up Your Future.
I'm gonna suture up my future. I ain't traded.
It was on the 2017 Era Vulgaris album that we did.
I thought this one worked the best.
Oh, I did too.
And I feel like the bass line sounds really good.
The bass is
acoustic like
here.
that. This is by far the standout track to me, because you can pardon the pun all you want, or you can just suck it up and take it. I like that this one just it like livens it up. You know what I mean? Like, this one has like a little bit more life to it, because it feels like, even without a lot of quote unquote percussion, just the doom, 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 like it just has more like energy behind it. And I was like, okay, so I like this one better already, just because it feels a little bit more like upbeat. But then that synth comes in, and I was like, holy shit, I'm in the middle of a John Carpenter movie. And I was like, I'm all in. Like, if John Carpenter had a movie about some weird otherworldly monster being in the catacombs, like, yes, this is the soundtrack.
Yeah, I didn't quite get the John Carpenter feeling of it, but I definitely like this version of Suture Up Your Future more than the album one that we listened to. And in fact, the album one I thought was fine, and that was Sean's favorite track off that album. But I don't know, this one I just felt like was fine here, or I felt like it was fine on the album, but I thought it was great here. And after listening to this and kind of, cleaning everything up the way that I do, I went and started looking around, and I found that this is actually a favorite of a fan favorite on the album, on this short EP. And I get it. I understand why. And I 100% agree in retrospect about the synth and being in a John Carpenter film, but it could be in a John Carpenter-like film, because I don't think John Carpenter's making movies anymore, is he?
Not really. He's mostly just out playing music at this point. He tours. I think his son is in the band with him.
Like Willie Nelson.
Honestly, John Carpenter looks a little bit like Willie Nelson now. There's been talks about Carpenter.
Like Willie Nelson.
If we live that long, we all look like Willie Nelson. There's been talks about him doing another film. I don't know if you've ever heard him in an interview, but he is such a crotchety old man. Like, I mean, it would have to be like, hey, John, here's $20 million and do whatever you want. And then he might make a movie. But if it's sort of like, hey, we want you to do this with The Thing or this with Halloween, he's probably going to tell him, F off, leave me alone.
Yeah. No, and that's fine. I guess you can do it if you're John Carpenter. So, all right.
Yeah, at this point, what do you need?
Yeah, let's finish this one out and talk about track 5, I Never Came. And this is off their 2005 album, Lullabies to Paralyze. Which I like the song, the name of the album it came off of better than I like the song. I mean, this one's fine. I really feel like, the first 2 tracks were warm-ups because I feel like 3, 4, and 5 were better parts of the whole thing. But I feel like
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this was just kind of closing it out, and it's almost like they only got time to do 4 or 5 songs in the Catacombs and 20 years to get 5 songs out, and that's fine. I just felt like this one was just kind of a cool minimalistic kind of song. I did feel the acoustics of the Catacombs a little bit more on this track than I had elsewhere on this short EP, and cool. I don't know. It was one of those things like, Suture Up Your Future was just such a damn cool track that now it's like,
yeah,
cool. Now we're here. We're going to finish this out.
I do think that the back half is more interesting than the first half. And so I do like this one because now that you brought it up, the sandpaper, like you can hear that real good in this song. And again, I think that just gives it a little bit more rhythm and a little bit more, because again, just personal taste, super long 5-6 minute slow draggy songs, even if they were being sung by my favorite singer, I'm going to be a little bit like bored with it. But these last couple have a little bit more energy and a little bit more musicality to latch onto. I felt like every one of these songs is pretty much just for Josh to, do vocal runs all over the place and just kind of like show off a little bit. But
it's for Josh to Josh out.
Yeah, this is the Josh Homme show, and I mean, like you said, I think if you're a Queens of the Stone Age fan, this is probably a wonderful, beautiful experience. But as just a casual guy, I like the last 2 songs better than the rest of it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And talking about the length of the songs, so every track here is over 5 minutes, except for track 4, which is 4 minutes 36 seconds, and it's still a long one. But I mean, I was having fun with it, so it was fine. But also,
I think every song starts with like 20 to 40 seconds of nothing. It's just sort of atmosphere and a little bit of build up. It's Suture Up Your Future is like the only one that just starts with the bass line and just gets going.
Well, I know that like, I feel like track 1's the only one that starts with like some empty space in the beginning of just atmosphere, and that's where Josh is just singing and then getting up on.
Well, they all have this like slow build before they kind of get moving.
Now, I do expect track 1 to be a little bit longer because it is a medley of the 2 songs put together, and
sure.
I get that that's a little bit longer, and it is 3:30 or 5:32. But I mean, even track 3, Villains of Circumstance, 5:57, so a 6-minute long song. It's like I just don't need it. But at the same time, I feel like this was a fan service sort of album and a chance for Josh to live his 20-year dream of playing the Catacombs, which is fine. And I kind of feel like it became a as a younger man wanted to play in the Catacombs to when he got older and just was like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep going till I get it. Like you said, there's no reason to stop. And, even though his one window was when he had to go home to get treatment for cancer, he still.
Yeah. But, that's one of those, like in one of my philosophies is everything happens for a reason. And that just seemed, if it didn't time out that way, who knows if it would ever happen for him. This reminds me to bring it back to 311 for a minute. This reminds me of a performance they did. They called it with the Unity Orchestra. I don't know, but it's essentially them playing 10 or 11 songs with an orchestra backing them up. And I don't think it works very well. It's no Metallica S&M at all.
No, I was going to ask you if it was before or after S&M, because I feel like after S&M came out, everybody tried to stick it to symphony with their stuff.
This was like way later. And there's a couple of songs that, already had some strings or like felt like there was space for them. But then there was other songs where it just felt very forced. And to me, this is very different, but it's the same basic principle. It's taking songs and doing them in a completely different way. And if you know the songs and you're familiar with the songs, it's at least exciting and interesting. Even if you don't love what they do with them, it's just a cool way to hear songs in a different way. But as a casual fan, or even really a fan, just, I've heard some songs. This feels like bloated, and like I said, it feels like it belongs in a movie, not like something I would ever want to just put on to listen to.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think there's probably one track off of this, and that would be "Suture Up Your Future."
Yeah, I agree.
I really want to listen to. Yeah. So anyway,
but Sean, just like picking Era Vulgaris, I love listening to something that I've never heard before, have no expectation of, have no idea of what to expect. And so, again, even though I didn't love this, I loved the idea behind it, and I loved experiencing like what they did with it. So, Sean, thanks for, number one, thanks for coming on the show and being so cool. And number two, thanks for, suggesting more stuff for us to check out for sure.
Oh yeah, no, it was a lot of fun having you or having you on. Not having you, because that. Whoa! It was just a cool thing to have you on. It was a lot of fun. And, even though live at the Catacombs isn't my thing, I still had fun, listening to it and pulling this one together. Yeah.
And so hopefully people enjoyed listening to us talk about it. You could have listened to it at least 1.5 times through instead of listening us to ramble about it. But hey, you chose to stick it out, and for that, we thank you.
Hold on. If we hang on for another 4 minutes, they could listen to it twice in the time. All right.
I can vamp for 4 minutes. That'll be fine. But
bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening, and hope you have a great day.
Bye.